The security camera footage is grainy but clear enough. The timestamp in the corner reads 4:47 a.m., April 23, 2021. A private desert resort, 80 kilometers outside Dubai. In the empty quarter where GPS signals fade and the nearest police station is an hour away. A place that doesn't appear on any map, where sand swallows secrets whole. A young woman in a torn evening dress runs barefoot down a service corridor, her stilettos abandoned somewhere in her desperate flight. Her makeup, once flawlessly applied, is now streaked with tears and mascara that runs like black rivers down her cheeks. She tries door after door, locked, locked, locked. Each handle rattles uselessly in her shaking hands. She pulls out a phone with trembling fingers. The screen's glow illuminating her terrified face. But there's no signal. There's never a signal out here. That's by design. Behind her, footsteps echo against concrete walls. Heavy, unhurried, deliberate. The sound of men who know their prey has nowhere to go. 3 figures in black suits appear at the end of the corridor, their faces obscured by shadow. She spins, looking for another way out, any way out. More men emerge from the opposite direction. She's surrounded, a butterfly pinned to a board, her wings already broken. 12 hours later, her body would be found near the service entrance, crumpled at the base of an external stairwell. Officially, a tragic accident. A fall. Too much to drink at a party. The kind of thing that happens when foreign workers make poor choices in unfamiliar places. But the CCTV tells a different story. A story about a girl who ran for her life. A story about a $1 million contract with an exit clause that was actually a death sentence. The question that will define this case. Was Mia Lopez murdered? Or was she killed by a legal document she didn't understand? To understand how a 24-year-old Filipina hospitality worker ended up running for her life in a luxury desert resort, you need to understand Manila first. You need to understand poverty that sits in your stomach like stones, that keeps you awake at night calculating and recalculating numbers that never add up. You need to understand what it means to be the eldest daughter in a family that's drowning, the one everyone looks to for salvation you don't know how to provide. Back to March 2021. Back to when Mia Lopez still believed that hard work, education, and a little luck could change everything. Back to before she learned that some opportunities are traps dressed in designer clothes. Mia Lopez was born in March 1997 in Quezon City, Metro Manila, in a neighborhood called Commonwealth where houses pressed so close together you could hear your neighbors' arguments through walls thin as paper, where the smell of cooking oil and garbage mingled in air thick with humidity and diesel exhaust. She was the eldest of 4 children in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes not even that, sometimes living on rice and soy sauce because that's all there was. Her father, Ricardo Lopez, drove a jeepney, one of those colorful, overcrowded buses that are Manila's lifeblood. He navigated the city's chaotic streets 12 hours a day, breathing exhaust fumes, fighting traffic that moved like molasses, coming home exhausted and smelling of gasoline and sweat, and the particular desperation of a man who knows he's running in place. His hands were permanently stained with grease. His back ached constantly from years of sitting in a driver's seat with broken suspension. 52, he looked 65. Her mother, Elena, worked as a domestic helper for a wealthy Chinese Filipino family in Makati, the financial district where skyscrapers gleamed and people paid more for coffee than Elena earned in a day. She cleaned their 5-bedroom house, cooked meals she could never afford to make for her own children, washed clothes that cost more than her monthly salary. She left home at 5 a.m. and returned at 9 p.m., 6 days a week, for 8,000 pesos a month, about $160. She'd been with the family for 15 years and had never received a raise. Mia grew up watching her parents sacrifice everything. She watched her mother skip meals so her siblings could eat, claiming she wasn't hungry even as her stomach growled audibly. She watched her father work through dengue fever because taking a day off meant no income, and no income meant her younger brother couldn't buy the textbooks required for school. She watched her sister, Maya, drop out of high school at 15 because they couldn't afford the uniform, the supplies, the endless fees that schools claimed were voluntary, but weren't. The defining memory of Mia's childhood. She was 7 years old, sitting at their scratched kitchen table doing homework by the light of a single bulb, when the electricity cut out. They were 3 months behind on the bill. Her mother cried silently in the dark, and Mia decided right then, at 7 years old, that she would be the one to break the cycle. She would lift her family out of this. She would make the sacrifice worth something. From that moment, she studied like education was oxygen. She memorized textbooks by candlelight when the power was cut. She walked an hour each way to school to save the jeepney fare. She tutored younger students for 50 pesos an hour and gave every peso to her mother. She earned a scholarship to study hospitality management at a technical college, one of the few paths available to bright kids from poor families. Hotels always need workers. Tourism is Manila's gold mine. Be pleasant, be subservient, be invisible, and you'll have a job. She graduated in 2019 with honors, a certificate that should have meant something. But in the Philippines, even a degree didn't guarantee escape. Jobs paid 15,000 to 20,000 pesos a month, $300 to $400 US. After rent, food, transportation, there was nothing left. You couldn't save. You couldn't breathe. You could only survive, and barely. So Mia did what 10 million Filipinos do. She went abroad. She became an OFW, an overseas Filipino worker, one of the country's biggest exports. Doctors working as nurses in America. Engineers working as construction laborers in Saudi Arabia. Teachers working as domestic helpers in Hong Kong. Hospitality graduates working in hotels anywhere that would take them. Sending money home. Always sending money home. Living in foreign countries, aging in foreign countries, dying in foreign countries, also the family back home could eat. In February 2020, just before the pandemic shut down the world, Mia arrived in Dubai with a 2-year contract as a hospitality coordinator at the Marina Bay Hotel, a 4-star establishment near the waterfront that catered to business travelers and budget-conscious tourists. The job promised 3,500 dirhams a month, about $950 US. It seemed like wealth compared to Manila. It wasn't. After deductions for accommodation, a room shared with 3 other Filipinas in a building 45 minutes from the hotel, after deductions for recruitment fees that somehow lasted the entire contract, after deductions for mandatory savings held by the employer supposedly for her benefit, she took home about 2,500 dirhams. $680 US. She sent 2,000 dirhams home every month. That left her 500 dirhams, $136, for an entire month in one of the world's most expensive cities. She lived on instant noodles bought in bulk from Carrefour, 24 packages for 20 dirhams. She lived on discounted bread from the supermarket's day-old section. She walked 40 minutes to work instead of taking the metro to save 10 dirhams a day. She wore the same 3 outfits on rotation, washing them by hand in her bathroom sink because the building's laundry machines cost 5 dirhams per load. She never went out, never socialized, never bought anything that wasn't absolutely necessary for survival. Her phone was filled with Instagram accounts she shouldn't have followed but couldn't help herself. Filipino influencers posting from infinity pools at the Burj Al Arab, fashion bloggers shopping at Dubai Mall with bags from Gucci and Chanel, travel vloggers dining at Atmosphere on the 122nd floor of Burj Khalifa, where a meal cost more than she earned in a week. She scrolled through these feeds during her breaks, sitting in the hotel's staff room eating noodles from a styrofoam cup, lost in a fantasy world that existed just kilometers away, but might as well have been on Mars. The contrast burned into her daily. She worked at a hotel where guests casually spent more on one dinner than she earned in a month. She served people who tipped waiters more than her daily wage. 200 dirhams pressed into a hand with a smile, "Thank you so much," and thought nothing of it because to them it was pocket change. She cleaned rooms where champagne bottles sat half empty in ice buckets, each bottle worth more than her entire monthly salary, discarded like garbage because there was always more where that came from. And through it all, the messages from home kept coming. Daily. Sometimes multiple times a day. "8 Mia, when can you send extra? We need to pay the electric bill or they'll cut us off again." 8 Papa's jeepney broke down. The engine finally gave out. The repair shop says 80,000 pesos or they'll sell it for parts. 8 Paolo got his acceptance letter to university but we need 45,000 for the first semester by next week or he loses the slot. 8. Mama's diabetes is getting worse. The medication costs 3,000 pesos a month and we can't afford it. Every message felt like a weight added to shoulders already buckling. She was 24 years old, working 12-hour shifts in a job that left her body aching and her mind numb, living on instant noodles in a room that smelled like 3 other people's desperation. And she still couldn't save her family. The math never worked. She sent everything she could, but it was never enough. The problems multiplied faster than her ability to solve them. She felt like she was drowning in shallow water, her feet inches from solid ground but unable to find purchase, unable to stand, unable to breathe. What Mia didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that there were people who specialized in finding girls like her. Girls who were educated enough to present well but desperate enough to take risks. Girls who were drowning and would grab any hand extended, even if that hand was pulling them deeper instead of lifting them up. People like Marcus De Leon, whose entire business model was built on spotting that specific kind of desperation and turning it into profit. Her coworker, Sarah Reyes, seemed to have cracked some secret code. Sarah was 26, had been in Dubai for 3 years like Mia, worked the same job for the same poverty wages, and yet somehow Sarah always had money. Real money. The kind of money that showed. She wore designer perfume, not the fake stuff you could buy for 30 dirhams in Dara's knockoff markets, but real Chanel No. 5 and Tom Ford Black Orchid that Mia could smell from across the room, the kind that came in heavy glass bottles and cost 400 dirhams. She carried a Michael Kors bag that Mia had seen in the Dubai Mall storefront with a price tag of 1,500 dirhams. She took taxis everywhere instead of the bus, spending 25 dirhams on a ride without thinking while Mia walked for 40 minutes. She posted Instagram stories from Friday brunches at Jumeirah Beach Hotel, the kind with unlimited champagne and seafood, 350 dirhams per person, and Mia would see them and wonder how it was possible on their salary. At first, Mia assumed Sarah had a rich boyfriend. A sugar daddy situation, not uncommon in Dubai, where wealthy Gulf men often kept foreign girlfriends in luxury apartments, giving them allowances in exchange for companionship. Mia didn't judge. Survival took many forms. But one evening in late February 2021, during a cigarette break behind the hotel, Mia didn't smoke, but she went outside for air because the staff room felt suffocating. Sarah finally told her the truth. "I do side work," Sarah said, her voice casual but her eyes watchful, gauging Mia's reaction like someone testing ice to see if it would hold weight. "Private events. High-end hosting." Mia frowned, not understanding. "Like catering?" "No, like being present. Rich guys, businessmen, investors, sheiks, they have these events. Dinners, yacht parties, desert retreats. They need girls who can look good, make conversation, be charming. Educated girls who speak English, who know how to act around wealthy people. Girls who can be decoration, basically, but expensive decoration." The way she said decoration made something twist in Mia's stomach, an instinct trying to surface, but Sarah was quick to continue. "I'm not talking about prostitution, Mia. I'm talking about being arm candy. You go to a dinner, you smile, you laugh at their jokes, you make them feel important and successful. Sometimes you just stand there looking pretty while they network with each other. You're part of the atmosphere. And the pay is insane, 5,000, sometimes 10,000 dirhams for one evening." Mia's eyes widened involuntarily. 5,000 dirhams for one evening was more than twice her monthly salary. For a few hours of smiling and standing around looking pretty? How do you even get these jobs? Sarah smiled and pulled out her phone. Her fingernails painted a perfect nude that probably cost 150 dirhams at a salon, while Mia did her own nails with polish from the Chinese discount store. "There's a guy. Fixer. Very professional, very discreet. His name is Marcus. He works with event planners and private offices. He finds the girls, handles all the logistics, makes sure everything is safe and legal. He only works with educated girls, hospitality background, English speakers, good presentation. He's very selective." She scrolled through her Instagram, showing Mia photos. Sarah on a yacht with Dubai Marina skyline behind her, wearing a gold cocktail dress. Sarah at a desert resort around a bonfire, surrounded by other beautiful women. Sarah at a rooftop restaurant, the Burj Khalifa lit up in the background. In every photo, she looked happy, glamorous, Safe. Safe? Mia asked, the word catching in her throat, that instinct surfacing again. Always. Marcus is a professional. Everything is done with contracts, NDAs, proper security. These are businessmen, Mia. Respectable people with reputations to protect. They're not going to risk scandal or legal trouble. It's all above board. Sarah leaned closer, dropping her voice to almost a whisper. I made 85,000 dirhams last month. Cash. No deductions, no taxes, just cash transferred directly to my account. In 1 month, Mia, I sent 60,000 home. My family bought a house. A real house with a title deed and everything, not renting anymore. My brother is in university now. My parents don't have to work anymore. 85,000 dirhams. Mia's mind reeled, trying to comprehend that number. That was more than 2 years of her current salary. In 1 month. Her family's problems, the jeepney, the electricity bills, her brother's tuition, her mother's medication, all of it, could be solved in weeks instead of years. Is he taking on new girls? Sarah smiled wider. I'll give him your number. 3 days later, on March 1st, 2021, Mia received a WhatsApp message from an unknown Dubai number with a +971 prefix. Good afternoon, Mia. My name is Marcus De Leon. Sarah Reyes provided your contact information as someone who might be interested in exclusive hospitality opportunities in Dubai. I represent select clientele in the Emirates who require professional, discreet event staff for high-end private functions. If you're interested in discussing potential opportunities, I'd like to meet for coffee at a neutral, public location. Tomorrow, 4 p.m., Café Bat Il in Dubai Mall, ground floor near the fountain entrance. Please let me know if this time works with your schedule. Best regards, Marcus. The message was professional, polite, almost corporate in tone. No red flags. No sexual innuendo. No pressure. It read like a job offer from a legitimate company, the kind of message you might receive from a recruiter on LinkedIn. Mia stared at the message for 10 minutes, reading and rereading it, her thumb hovering over the reply button. Her first instinct was to ignore it. This felt too good to be true, and things that felt too good to be true usually were. Her father had always told her that. But then she thought about her mother's last message, received just that morning. 8. The landlord came today. We're 3 months behind on rent. He's threatening to evict us. Please, if you can send anything extra. She thought about her father's jeepney sitting in a repair shop, the family's only source of income being held hostage for 80,000 pesos they didn't have. She thought about her brother Paulo's university acceptance letter, an opportunity that would expire in 2 weeks if they couldn't come up with the tuition. She thought about working 12-hour shifts for the next 5 years and still not being able to solve any of these problems. And she typed, yes, I can meet tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you. Café Bat Il was exactly the kind of place Mia would never normally go. Expensive, pretentious, the kind of cafe where a cappuccino cost 32 dirhams and came with a tiny biscuit that probably cost another 15. The kind of place where businessmen in suits had meetings and women in designer abayas sipped coffee and checked their phones encased in Swarovski crystals. Mia arrived 15 minutes early, nervous, wearing her best outfit. A simple black dress she'd bought on sale at H&M 2 years ago, conservative and professional. She sat at a corner table where she could see the entrance, her hands clasped in her lap to stop them from shaking. At exactly 4 p.m., a man walked in and looked around with the confidence of someone who belonged in places like this. Marcus De Leon looked exactly like his messages sounded. Professional, polished, expensive. He was in his early 40s, Filipino but with that particular polish that comes from living abroad for decades. His clothes fit too well, his posture too straight, his smile too practiced. He wore a dark blue suit that was tailored perfectly, not off the rack like the suits Mia saw on other hotel workers. A Tag Heuer watch glinted on his wrist. She recognized it because she'd seen one in a store window once with a price tag of 18,000 dirhams. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine. He approached her table directly, extending his hand. Mia? Marcus De Leon. Thank you so much for meeting me. His accent was Filipino but softened by years, Canadian, she guessed, or American. They shook hands. His grip was firm, professional. He sat down and immediately signaled a waiter, ordering coffee for both of them before she could protest, paying with an American Express Platinum card that he placed on the table as casually as if it were a Metro card. "Thank you for coming," he began, his tone businesslike but warm. "I've worked in hospitality staffing and event coordination for 12 years, primarily serving UH&W clients in the Gulf region. That's ultra-high net worth individuals, people with assets exceeding $30 million US. These are people who value privacy, discretion, and perfection above everything else." He slid a leather portfolio across the table. Inside were testimonials from previous workers, girls with Filipino and Eastern European names, all praising Marcus's professionalism. There were photos of events, girls in elegant dresses at yacht parties, at desert resorts, at private dinners. Always in groups, always in public settings. Nothing that looked dangerous or sexual. And most importantly, there was a business card with a real company name. Crescent Hospitality Solutions, with an address in the Dubai International Financial Center, the DIFC, Dubai's most legitimate business district, where real companies had real offices with real licenses. "What exactly would I be doing?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper, aware that people at nearby tables might be listening. "It varies depending on the client's needs," Marcus explained, his hands folded on the table, his expression open and honest. "Sometimes it's a corporate dinner where my clients need intelligent, beautiful women to balance the table, facilitate conversation, make their guests feel welcome and important. Sometimes it's a yacht party or a weekend retreat where you'd mingle, take photos for social media, participate in activities like swimming or spa treatments. Your job is simply to be present, elegant, engaging. You're there to enhance the atmosphere." "Do they expect—" Mia couldn't finish the sentence, her cheeks burning. Marcus's expression became stern, almost offended, like she'd insulted him. "Absolutely not. My clients are successful businessmen with international reputations to protect. Everything is strictly professional. Your hospitality staff, not escorts. If anyone ever makes you uncomfortable or crosses boundaries, you report it to me immediately and you leave. We have security at every single event specifically to prevent that kind of situation." He leaned forward slightly, his voice sincere. "Mia, I work exclusively with educated Filipinas because our culture values respect, family, professionalism. You're not going to some shady operation run by criminals. These are legitimate events with proper contracts, insurance coverage, and legal protection. I wouldn't risk my reputation or my business on anything illegal or dangerous. How much does it pay? It depends on the event. A standard corporate dinner, 4 to 6 hours, pays 3,000 to 5,000 dirhams. A yacht party or day event can be 8,000 to 12,000. A weekend retreat typically pays 15,000 to 25,000. And for exceptional opportunities with elite clients who require absolute discretion, significantly more." Mia's heart pounded. 5,000 dirhams for 4 hours was more than she made working 260 hours a month at the hotel. It was more money than she'd ever touched at once in her entire life. "I'd need to think about it," she managed to say. Marcus smiled gently, understandingly. "Of course. This is a big decision. I completely understand. Take your time. When you're ready, just send me a message. No pressure at all." He stood, shook her hand again, and left. The coffee arrived moments later, premium cappuccinos that probably cost 40 dirhams each. He'd already paid. Even the small gestures were calculated to impress. That night, Mia lay awake in her cramped shared room, listening to her roommates snore, staring at the ceiling and calculating obsessively. One dinner event at 5,000 dirhams equals father's jeepney repaired. Family saved from eviction. 2 yacht parties at 10,000 each equals brother's first year of university paid in full. 1 weekend retreat at 20,000 dirhams equals mother's medication. For a year plus family debt cleared plus small emergency fund. In 6 events, maybe 2 months of occasional weekend work, she could accomplish what would take her 3 years of her current job. 3 years of 12-hour shifts, instant noodles, walking 40 minutes each way, living in a room that smelled like other people's desperation. The next morning, she sent Marcus a message before she could change her mind. "I'm interested. What's the next step? His reply came within 5 minutes. Wonderful decision, Mia. Let's start with something simple so you can see how professional everything is. There's a corporate dinner next Friday evening at the Armani Hotel. I'll send you all the details. You'll be perfect. The first event was exactly as Marcus described, exactly as promised, exactly as Sarah had said it would be. A corporate dinner at the Armani Hotel inside Burj Khalifa on Friday, March 5, 2021. Marcus's team met her 2 hours before, providing her with a designer black cocktail dress. Ellie Saab, she later learned, probably worth 3,000 dirhams, along with jewelry, shoes, a clutch purse. A professional makeup artist did her face. A hairstylist styled her hair. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked expensive. She looked like she belonged in places like the Armani Hotel. The dinner itself was exactly as described. 8 businessmen, all Saudi Arabian and Emirati, discussing real estate investments and oil futures. For women including Mia, seated strategically around the table. The men were polite, middle-aged, more interested in their business conversations than in flirting. They asked Mia about her background, her education, complimented her English. The conversation was appropriate, professional. Security staff were visible throughout the hotel. She felt safe. At 10 p.m., the dinner ended. Marcus met her in the lobby, handed her an envelope containing 4,000 dirhams in cash, crisp 100 dirham notes, and thanked her for her professionalism. For 1,000 dirhams. For 4 hours of smiling and making polite conversation. She sent 3,000 home that night and bought herself a real meal for the first time in months. Chicken from Al Baik, rice, vegetables. She ate until her stomach hurt. The second event was similar. Then a third. By the end of March, she'd done 6 events and earned 23,000 dirhams. More than she'd sent home in the previous 6 months combined. Her family's landlord was paid in full, plus 3 months in advance. Her father's jeepney was repaired and back on the road. Her brother enrolled in university. Her mother's medication was purchased in bulk, a 6-month supply. Her mother cried on the phone, thanking God for the miracle, asking what Mia had done to earn so much so quickly. Extra shifts, Mia lied. The hotel is very busy. Lots of overtime. She felt guilty about the lie, but she also felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Maybe this was the answer. Maybe she could actually save her family. What Mia didn't realize, what she couldn't see, was that every event was carefully calibrated. Marcus was grooming her, building trust, making her comfortable. The first few events were always legitimate, always safe, always exactly as promised. That's how the trap worked. You don't spring it immediately. You let them walk in voluntarily, thinking they know what they're agreeing to. By early April, Mia had done 10 events and sent almost 40,000 dirhams home. She felt like she'd found a secret door to a better life. She trusted Marcus. She trusted the system. She trusted the contracts with their official letterheads and legal language. That's when Marcus invited her to coffee again. Same place, Café Bat Il, but this time the conversation would be different. This time, he would make an offer that would change everything. This time, he would offer her $1 million. And Mia, tired and desperate and trusting, would say yes. On April 10, 2021, Marcus asked Mia to meet him again, this time at a more upscale location. The lounge at the Address Hotel overlooking Dubai Fountain. The setting alone signaled that this wasn't a routine check-in. He ordered premium tea service, delicate pastries, Arabic sweets, silverware that caught the afternoon light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. He was building up to something, and Mia could feel it in the careful way he arranged his words, in the pauses that felt calculated. "You've done exceptionally well these past weeks," Marcus began, his tone warm but carrying an edge of seriousness that hadn't been there before. "My clients have given excellent feedback. You're professional, elegant, and you understand discretion. That's rare, Mia. Most girls either can't handle the lifestyle or they get too comfortable and start pushing boundaries. You've been perfect." Mia nodded, unsure where this was going. Her hands wrapped around a teacup she hadn't actually drunk from. "Because of your performance, I've been authorized to offer you something significant." Something that could change your entire life in one weekend. He slid a manila envelope across the table, the kind lawyers use, heavy cream-colored paper that whispered money and importance. A private client, someone at the very top of Gulf society, is hosting a weekend retreat at an exclusive desert resort. He's looking for a small, select group of women to serve as companions for a private gathering. Not sexually, he added quickly, seeing her expression shift. Think of it as extended hosting. You'd be part of his entourage for the weekend. Meals, entertainment, socializing. You'd stay in luxury accommodations, have your own villa, and be treated like a VIP guest yourself. For how long? Friday evening through Sunday afternoon. Approximately 48 hours. Mia's mind raced. 2 days. What could be so valuable about 2 days that it required this special meeting, this expensive tea service, this manila envelope that sat between them like a promise or a threat? Marcus opened the envelope and pulled out a single sheet of paper. At the top, in bold numbers that seemed to pulse with their own light, $1 million. Mia's breath caught in her throat. She blinked, certain she'd misread, that maybe it was 100,000 or that the decimal point was in the wrong place. But the zeros were there. 6 of them. $1 million. That's not a mistake, Marcus said softly, watching her reaction with the intensity of someone studying a chemical reaction. For the right woman. Someone trustworthy, discreet, and professional. This client is prepared to pay $1 million for 1 weekend of companionship. That's insane, Mia heard herself say, her voice sounding distant, like it was coming from someone else. No one pays $1 million just for company. There has to be more. There has to be something you're not telling me. Marcus nodded, as if he'd expected the objection, as if this was all part of a script he'd performed before. You're right to be skeptical. It shows intelligence. Let me explain the reality of this situation. This particular client is a member of a ruling family. I cannot disclose which one, that's part of the confidentiality, but someone with immense wealth and immense need for absolute discretion. He's hosting a very private gathering with other ultra-high net worth individuals. These are men who value privacy above everything else. Men for whom exposure would mean political catastrophe, business ruin, family disgrace. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to that confidential register that made you feel like you were being let in on a secret. The $1 million isn't just payment for your time and presence. It's payment for your absolute, ironclad silence. Forever. You would sign an NDA so comprehensive that even mentioning you were at this event, not the details, just that you were there, could result in severe legal consequences. The money buys your presence, yes, but more importantly, it buys your discretion for the rest of your natural life. What exactly would I have to do? Be present. Be charming. Participate in social activities, meals, entertainment, perhaps swimming or spa treatments. You'd be one of 6 women selected for this weekend. Think of it as being part of the atmosphere at an exclusive private party. You're there to make the environment more pleasant, more sophisticated. These men are surrounded by other men all the time. They want feminine energy, beauty, intelligence. Your decoration, but the most expensive decoration they'll ever buy. And if they want more, that would be entirely your choice, Marcus said, his expression hardening into something that looked like genuine offense. The contract explicitly states that physical intimacy is not required. If it happens, it's consensual and between adults. But it is absolutely not an obligation. You're free to say no to anything that makes you uncomfortable. He pushed the envelope closer, his fingers drumming once on the table. Inside is the initial contract overview. Take it home. Read it carefully, take your time. If you're interested, we'll arrange a formal signing at a legal office in DIFC next week. Everything is above board, Mia. Everything is legal. This isn't some back alley deal. This is a legitimate contract with a legitimate law firm representing a legitimate client who wants legitimate discretion. That night, Mia sat on her bed in the cramped room she shared with 3 other women. The contract spread out before her like a map to a country she'd never visited. The document was printed on official letterhead from Almazrui and Partners Legal Consultancy, DIFC. She'd looked them up online. They were real, with a real office, real lawyers, real credentials. The contract was dense, filled with legal terminology that made her head hurt. The key terms seemed straightforward enough. Compensation. $1 million paid in full to a foreign account of her designation within 48 hours of contract execution. Duration. Friday, April 21st, 6 p.m. through Sunday, April 23rd, 6 p.m. Location. Private desert resort. Coordinates to be provided upon arrival for security reasons. Duties. Social companionship, participation in group activities, maintenance of elegant presentation at all times. Discretion. Absolute confidentiality regarding client identity, location, and all activities observed or participated in. NDA enforceable for the duration of Party B's natural life. She flipped to Section 7. Breach and remedies. The language became almost incomprehensible. Dense legal English that seemed designed to confuse rather than clarify. In the event that Party B hereinafter referred to as companion breaches material terms of this agreement, including but not limited to 1. Violation of confidentiality provisions set forth in Section 4, 2. Unauthorized departure from designated premises prior to contract completion, 3. Refusal to fulfill agreed-upon companionship obligations as reasonably determined by Party A or Party A's designated representatives, or, for any conduct deemed by Party A to constitute reputational harm or potential reputational harm, Party B shall be liable for liquidated damages equal to the full compensation amount plus interest calculated at 12% per annum, plus additional remedial action as determined necessary by Party A's designated representatives to mitigate harm. Such remedial action to be enforceable under the private arbitration jurisdiction specified in Appendix C, which jurisdiction shall be binding and final with no right of appeal to civil courts. Mia read it 3 times, trying to parse the meaning. It seemed to be saying, if you violate the NDA, leave early, refuse to do what they ask, or do anything they consider harmful to their reputation, you owe back the full $1 million plus interest. Plus, they can take additional unspecified action against you through some kind of private arbitration that you can't appeal. It sounded like standard scare language, the kind of thing rich people put in contracts to make you take them seriously. Don't violate our trust and there won't be any problems. The phrase remedial action bothered her, though. What did that mean? Remedial. Like remedy. Like fixing something. But how do you fix a broken NDA? How do you remediate someone who's already told secrets? She pushed the thought away. She wasn't going to tell secrets. She wasn't going to breach anything. She'd do the weekend, keep her mouth shut forever, and take the money. Simple. She called Sarah that night, speaking in whispers so her roommates wouldn't hear. Did you ever do anything like this? $1 million? No, Sarah breathed, sounding genuinely shocked. That's insane money, Mia. That's generational wealth. But I know girls who did similar high-value weekends. Not for $1 million, maybe $50,000 or $100,000, but the same setup. The key is the contract. If it's through a real law firm and they're wiring the money to your account before you even go, that's legitimate. They're not going to commit financial fraud just to trick one Filipina girl. What about this language about remedial action and private jurisdiction? That's standard scare tactics in Middle East contracts. Rich people here put that in everything. It basically means if you fuck them over, they'll sue you into oblivion and you'll spend the rest of your life in debt. Just don't fuck them over. Do the weekend professionally, keep your mouth shut forever, take the money, and change your family's life. Sarah paused, and Mia could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Mia, this is once-in-a-lifetime money. One weekend. You could buy your family a real house, not rent. You could send all your siblings to university. You could retire your parents. You could set yourself up for life. Girls would literally kill for this opportunity. Don't overthink it. Just do it. On April 15th, Mia sat in a glass-walled conference room on the 34th floor of a DIFC office tower. The view stretching across Sheikh Zayed Road where traffic moved like blood cells through arteries of concrete and glass. Across from her sat Ahmed Al-Mazroui, a middle-aged Emirati man in traditional white kandura and a gatra held in place by a black agal. His expression one of professional boredom. This was clearly routine for him. Marcus sat beside Mia, his role now clearly that of facilitator rather than friend. The lawyer walked her through the contract in both English and Arabic, pointing out key clauses with a gold pen that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Everything Marcus had said was there in black and white. The payment terms were crystal clear. $1 million wired to a Wells Fargo account in her name. She'd opened it specifically for this transaction, within 48 hours of contract execution. The money would be there before she even went to the resort. That was the proof of legitimacy. They were paying her first. Do you understand that you are agreeing to absolute confidentiality for the duration of your natural life? The lawyer asked in careful English, his accent thick but his words precise. Yes, Mia said. Do you understand that unauthorized departure from the premises prior to the agreed completion time constitutes material breach of contract? Yes. Do you understand that remedial action for breach may include financial penalties exceeding the compensation amount and legal action in private arbitration from which there is no appeal? Yes. She signed. Her hand was shaking slightly as she wrote her name, Maria Teresa Lopez, in the designated spaces, her signature looking small and vulnerable on the heavy paper. The lawyer notarized it with an official stamp that made a heavy thunk sound. Marcus smiled and shook her hand. The lawyer shook her hand with fingers that were cool and dry. Congratulations, Miss Lopez. I hope you understand the seriousness of what you've just agreed to. The words felt less like congratulations and more like a warning, but Mia nodded anyway. The money will be in your account by Thursday morning, Marcus said as they left the office, stepping into an elevator that descended so smoothly Mia couldn't feel the movement. A driver will pick you up next Friday at 4 p.m. Bring only what's on this list. He handed her a printed sheet, no phone, no smart devices, no camera. Everything else will be provided. We'll return your phone and belongings when you return Sunday evening. Why no phone? Security, Marcus said simply. These clients can't risk any recordings, any photos, any location data. You'll be completely disconnected for 48 hours. Think of it as a digital detox. Some people pay thousands for that experience. On Thursday, April 18th, at 9:23 a.m., Mia's phone buzzed with an alert from Wells Fargo. She was sitting in the hotel staff room during her break, eating instant noodles that had gone cold. She opened the banking app with fingers that left grease marks on the screen. Deposit, $1 million. Available balance, $1 million. She stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. She closed the app and reopened it. The numbers didn't change. She refreshed. Still there. $1 million in an account with her name on it. She sat there for 15 minutes, just staring, until her supervisor came in and asked if she was feeling all right. She said she thought she might be getting sick. She went home early, walking the 40 minutes in a daze, the phone clutched in her hand like it might evaporate. In her room, alone, she transferred money with shaking hands, $50,000 to her parents with a note. Buy a house, a real one. $20,000 to her brother Paolo for 4 years of university. $10,000 to her sister Maya to start a small business. $5,000 to her younger brother for school expenses. That left $915,000. Enough to never work again. Enough to retire her parents. Enough to change absolutely everything. Her mother called within an hour, sobbing so hard she couldn't form words. Her father took the phone, his voice breaking. Anik, where did this come from? What did you do? I took a contract job, Papa, Mia said, trying to keep her voice steady. A hosting job for a very wealthy client. Just for 1 weekend. Everything is legal, I promise. Everything is through a real law firm. These people have more money than we can imagine. To them, this is nothing. 1 weekend? For this much money? Yes, Papa. I promise I'll be safe. I promise I'll be careful. Her father was silent for a long moment, and when he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that made Mia's chest tighten. Be careful, Anik. Money like this always comes with a price. Nothing is free. Please, please be careful. I will, Papa. Promise. But as she hung up and looked at the banking app again, at the $915,000 that remained, a cold feeling settled in her stomach like ice water. The money was real. The contract was real. The law firm was real. So why did she feel like she'd just sold something she could never buy back? Friday, April 21st, 2021, arrived with the kind of perfect weather that Dubai specialized in: cloudless blue sky, temperature in the mid-20s Celsius, a gentle breeze that carried the smell of salt from the Gulf. Mia woke at dawn after sleeping maybe 3 hours total, her stomach churning with anxiety that felt like she'd swallowed broken glass. Every time she'd closed her eyes, she'd imagined worst-case scenarios. What if the contract was a front for something darker? What if this was trafficking? What if she never came back? But then she'd open her banking app. She'd checked it 17 times during the night and see $915,000 still sitting there. Still real. Money didn't lie. Criminals didn't wire you $1 million before committing crimes. That's not how trafficking worked. She forced herself to eat breakfast. Instant noodles again, her stomach too nervous for anything else, and followed Marcus's instructions precisely. 1 small overnight bag. 3 elegant outfits provided by his team earlier that week. Designer dresses she'd never been able to afford. Valentino, Balmain. Names she'd only seen in magazines. Undergarments, basic toiletries, nothing electronic. No phone, no laptop, no smartwatch, no camera, no jewelry except small diamond stud earrings that Marcus's team had provided. Her passport, required for a resort check-in. That was it. Her entire life for 48 hours fit in a bag smaller than the one she'd brought from Manila. At 3:45 p.m., she stood outside her building in Dara, her bag at her feet, the afternoon sun beating down on her head. Other residents walked past. Indian construction workers heading to evening shifts, Filipino domestic helpers returning from their employers' homes, the usual parade of foreign workers who kept Dubai running. None of them knew that the girl standing there with a small bag was about to collect $1 million for a weekend of work. A black Mercedes S-Class pulled up at exactly 4 p.m., so punctual it felt choreographed. The driver, a South Asian man in a black suit and tie, stepped out and opened the rear door without saying a word. Inside, the car was spotless, silent except for the whisper of air conditioning, leather seats that still had that new car smell. Mia slid in, and the door closed with a heavy, final sound, the kind of sound that expensive cars make, engineered to communicate quality and security, but that now felt like a vault ceiling. They drove south out of Dubai, away from the glittering skyline, onto the E11 highway toward Abu Dhabi. The driver said nothing. Mia tried to make conversation once. "How long is the drive?" But he simply held up a card that said, 90 minutes. No talking permitted. Security protocol. After 40 minutes on the highway, they exited onto smaller roads, then onto unmarked desert tracks where the asphalt gave way to packed sand and gravel. The landscape became emptiness. Sand the color of old bones, rock formations that looked like sleeping animals, endless horizon where sky met earth in a line so straight it could have been drawn with a ruler. No signs, no landmarks, no indication that humans had ever been here or ever would be again. An hour and 23 minutes after leaving Dubai, they arrived. The resort appeared like a mirage shimmering into reality. A cluster of low-rise villas built from sandstone and dark wood, designed to blend into the desert landscape. Solar panels glinted on every roof. A central building, larger than the others, served as the main lodge. Palm trees and imported greenery surrounded a large infinity pool that glowed impossibly turquoise against the beige sand. Water that had no business existing in this place. It looked expensive. It looked private. It looked isolated in a way that made Mia's skin prickle. No other cars. Visible. No staff outside. No signs, no branding, no indication this place even existed on any map. The kind of place that appeared in satellite photos as nothing but empty desert, the buildings camouflaged too well to register as human construction. The driver opened Mia's door, the heat hitting her like a physical force, even though it was nearly 5:30 p.m. "Someone will meet you inside." Those were the only words he spoke. She walked toward the entrance, her heels, also provided by Marcus, black Louboutins with red soles, sinking slightly into sand that had blown across the walkway. The heat was oppressive, dry, the kind that pulled moisture from your skin and left your lips cracked within minutes. Inside, the air was blessedly cool, almost cold. The lobby was minimalist luxury. White marble floors polished to a mirror finish, Arabic geometric art in gold frames. Low black leather sofas arranged around a glass coffee table. A blonde woman in her 30s stood waiting, European based on her features, wearing a crisp white blouse and black pencil skirt that screamed professional hospitality management. She smiled, but the smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mia Lopez?" she asked in English with a slight German accent. "Yes. Welcome. My name is Petra. I manage guest services here. Let me show you to your villa, so you can settle in and prepare for the welcome dinner at 8 o'clock. The other ladies have already arrived and are settling into their accommodations." Other ladies. So Mia wasn't alone. 6 women total, Marcus had said. That was something. That was better than being the only one. Petra led her down a winding stone path, past the pool where the water lapped gently against infinity edges, past other villas with closed doors and drawn curtains, to a standalone structure at the far end of the compound. Villa 6 was etched into a bronze plaque beside the door. Inside was luxury that Mia had only seen in magazine spreads. 1 bedroom with a king-sized bed that looked like it could fit 4 people, Egyptian cotton sheets and cream, a mountain of pillows. A bathroom larger than her bedroom in Dara, all white marble and gold fixtures, with a rain shower and a deep soaking tub. A sitting area with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the desert, the view stretching for kilometers across sand that was starting to turn gold in the setting sun. On the bed lay 3 evening gowns, each more stunning than the last. 1 in deep emerald green, 1 in midnight blue, 1 in champagne gold. All designer, all perfectly tailored to her measurements that Marcus must have provided. "Choose whichever you prefer for tonight," Petra said, gesturing to the dresses. "Dinner is formal. The other ladies and the gentlemen will be in the main dining hall. Please be ready by 7:45 p.m. Someone will come to escort you. If you need anything before then, use the intercom." She pointed to a panel on the wall that looked like a high-tech phone system. "Just press the button and someone will respond. We're here to make sure you're comfortable." She left and Mia was alone. She walked to the window and looked out at the endless desert. No roads visible. No lights except those of the resort. Nothing but sand and rock and the sun sinking toward the horizon, painting everything in shades of orange and red that were beautiful and terrifying. She was 80 kilometers from Dubai, in a place with no name and no address, with no phone and no way to contact anyone, and a contract that said she couldn't leave for 48 hours. For the first time since signing, real fear crept in. Not anxiety, not nervousness, but actual fear that made her hands shake and her breath come short. She forced herself to breathe slowly, to calm down. "You have $1 million, she told herself. "They paid you first. This is legitimate. Nothing bad is going to happen. You're being paranoid." She showered in water so hot it turned her skin pink. Used the expensive toiletries provided, Hermes, Bulgari, brands she'd never touched before. She chose the midnight blue gown because it was the most conservative, with long sleeves and a high neckline, elegant but not revealing. She applied makeup with hands that were steadier now, using the high-end products laid out on the bathroom counter: Tom Ford, Charlotte Tilbury, La Mer. When she looked in the mirror, she saw someone who looked like she belonged in a place like this. Someone expensive. Someone who could be worth $1 million. At exactly 7:45 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Mia opened it to find Petra standing there with that same professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ready?" Mia nodded, and they walked together toward the main lodge. As they approached, Mia could hear music, traditional Arabic instrumental, oud and canon, sophisticated and haunting, and the low murmur of conversation in a language she didn't understand. Inside the dining hall, the scene was set like something from a film about wealth and power. A long table for 20 people, set with crystal glasses that caught the candlelight and threw rainbows across white linen. Silver cutlery arranged in patterns Mia recognized from her hospitality training. Candles flickering in tall holders, fresh flowers that must have been flown in because they certainly didn't grow in the desert. The room smelled of expensive cologne and something cooking: lamb, saffron, cardamom. And the guests. 5 other women were already there, all in their early to mid-20s, all strikingly beautiful in that specific way that came from good genetics and professional styling. They stood together in a small cluster, speaking in low voices. Mia caught Russian, Portuguese, maybe Romanian. They looked nervous despite their practiced smiles, like actresses waiting in the wings before a performance they'd rehearsed but didn't fully understand. And the men, 8 of them, ages ranging from late 40s to mid-60s, all wearing traditional Gulf dress, immaculate white thobes that looked like they'd been pressed moments before, white gutra headdresses held in place by black agals, some with the red and white checked pattern that indicated Saudi origin. They stood at the far end of the room speaking in rapid Arabic, occasionally glancing at the women with expressions Mia couldn't quite read. Assessment, ownership, anticipation, something that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. One man stood at the center of the group, clearly the most important. Tall, perhaps 55 years old, with a neatly trimmed beard going gray and eyes that were sharp and cold even from across the room. He wore a Rolex so covered in diamonds it caught the light like a disco ball. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. His posture alone communicated power, the kind that came from never being told no, from having enough money to make problems and people disappear. He looked at Mia for a long moment, his gaze traveling from her face down her body and back up, slow and deliberate. Then he turned back to his conversation as if she'd been catalogued and filed away. Petra guided Mia to her seat. Midway down the table, between a Russian woman who introduced herself as Anya and a Brazilian who said her name was Camila. Neither offered more than their first names. That seemed to be the protocol here. No last names. No details. No real identities. Just beautiful faces and bodies temporarily rented for a sum that would change their lives or end them, depending on how the weekend went. Dinner was served in courses that seemed endless. Arabic meze with hummus and baba ganoush, grilled. Hamar fish with saffron rice, lamb ozi that fell off the bone. Desserts drenched in rosewater and honey. Each course more elaborate than the last. Each presented by staff who appeared silently from a service entrance and disappeared just as quickly. Ghosts in white jackets who never made eye contact. The men ate and drank. Whiskey, wine, cognac, despite the religious prohibition. And talked amongst themselves in Arabic that Mia couldn't follow, but that sounded like business. Like numbers and deals and territories being divided. The women were expected to be present, elegant, decorative. Silent unless directly addressed. Mia sat with her hands folded in her lap, her back straight from years of hospitality training, smiling when appropriate but saying nothing. Halfway through the meal, one of the men, early 60s, heavy-set, gold rings on every finger, turned to Anya and spoke in accented English. "You are from Russia?" "Yes, sir," Anya replied with a smile so practiced it could have been painted on. "You are very beautiful. Have you been to Dubai before?" "Yes, sir, I work here." "Good, good." He turned back to his colleagues, the interaction over. Anya dismissed like a television switched off. After dinner, they were led to a lounge area. Low sofas arranged around a marble coffee table. More candles, more music. Lighting dimmed to something intimate and predatory. This was when things began to shift. Staff brought out drinks on silver trays, champagne in crystal flutes, cocktails in cut glass, premium spirits. The men loosened up, their conversations becoming louder, more animated, punctuated with laughter that sounded too sharp. One of them gestured to the women with a casual wave. "Come, sit with us. Don't stand there like statues. We paid for company, so provide company." The words were in English, deliberate, meant for the women to understand. Mia felt her stomach drop. The 6 women moved to the sofas, distributing themselves among the men like chess pieces. Mia found herself beside a man who looked younger than the others, maybe 50, wearing cologne so strong it made her eyes water. "You are Filipina?" he asked, his hand resting on the sofa behind her shoulders. "Yes, sir. I like Filipinas. Very respectful. Very loyal. Very obedient." The way he said obedient made Mia's skin crawl. She smiled and said nothing. As the night wore on, 10 p.m., 10:30, 11, the men's behavior became more familiar. Hands on shoulders, arms around waists, comments about appearance, about bodies, delivered with smiles but unmistakable in their intent. Camila was pulled onto a man's lap. She laughed, playing along, but Mia saw the tension in her shoulders. Elena was offered cocaine from a small vial one of the men produced. She declined politely. The man shrugged and offered it to the Ukrainian, who accepted. Mia was offered a drink, something amber in a heavy crystal tumbler. Whiskey, he said. Japanese. Very expensive. Try it. I don't drink alcohol, thank you. His expression darkened. You don't drink? Why not? I just don't, Mia said carefully. I'm sorry. He stared at her for a long moment, his hand gripping her arm. Then he turned and spoke rapid Arabic to the man beside him. They both looked at her, and she heard one word clearly. Mushkila. Problem. At 11:30 p.m., Petra appeared and told the women it was time to return to their villas. Mia felt relief wash over her. But as the women stood to leave, the man at the center, the tall one with cold eyes, spoke for the first time in English. Not all of you. Some will stay. Petra nodded without surprise. She pointed to 3 women. Camila, Anya, and the Ukrainian. You 3 remain. The rest back to your villas. Tomorrow's activities begin at 10 a.m. Mia walked back with Elena and Sophia, none speaking until they were far enough away. Did you know it would be like this? Elena whispered. No, Mia said. The contract said social hosting. They always say that, Sophia muttered bitterly. It's never just hosting. The contract makes it look consensual. Back in her villa, Mia couldn't sleep. At 3:17 a.m., she heard a sound that made her blood turn to ice. A woman screaming. Hi, terrified, cut off suddenly. Then silence. Then men's voices speaking Arabic, calm, unhurried. Mia pressed herself against the headboard, waiting. Nothing happened. But she knew something terrible had occurred. She had to get out. She had to call someone. But there was no phone. She got out of bed and quietly opened her door. The resort was silent, lit only by pathway lights. She moved toward the main lodge, staying in shadow. The front entrance was locked. She tried other doors. All locked. Then she found a service entrance, slightly ajar. She slipped inside. Inside was a harsh corridor, concrete floors, fluorescent lighting. She moved down the hallway trying doors. Storage. Mechanical room. Locked office. Then she heard voices. Male voices speaking Arabic. Wada min albanat kharij min gurfatiha. One of the girls is out of her room. Fi al-marifik al-kadmiya. Al-kamarat arayatha. In the service facilities. The cameras saw her. They'd seen her on cameras. Mia turned and ran. Behind her, footsteps. Heavy. Fast. She burst through the service door and ran across sand toward her villa, her bare feet sinking with each step. She made it inside and slammed the door, locking it. She waited for them to come. But nothing happened. Just silence. But she knew they'd seen her trying to escape. Mia was woken by sharp knocking at 9 a.m. She'd finally fallen asleep around dawn. Yes? It's Petra. We need to talk. The voice was cold. Mia opened the door. Petra stood there, her expression hard. You went wandering last night. Couldn't sleep. I was just walking. You entered the service areas. That's a restricted zone. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Petra stepped inside and closed the door. Mia, you signed a contract with very specific terms about remaining on premises and fulfilling obligations. Attempting to access restricted areas, attempting to leave, these are breaches. I want to go home. Please. I'll give the money back. Just let me leave. You can't. If you breach now, you're liable for liquidated damages equal to the full fee, $1 million, plus remedial action. Do you have $1 million? Mia's mind raced. She'd sent $85,000 to her family. I can wire it back. And the remedial action? The contract specifies that we have discretion to determine remedial measures. That could mean legal action. That could mean ensuring your family faces consequences. They received money from this transaction, which makes them complicit. You can't threaten my family. You're in a private jurisdiction, Mia. This resort doesn't exist on maps. You agreed to private arbitration. There's no court, no police with jurisdiction. You're 80 kilometers from nowhere, and no one knows where you are. You have one choice. Fulfill the contract, be compliant tonight, and leave tomorrow with your money intact. Or continue to be a problem, in which case we have mechanisms to manage problems. What does that mean? It means you don't want to find out. Breakfast is in 30 minutes. Be dressed. And Mia, don't try anything stupid again. We're watching. The day passed in surreal normalcy. Poolside lounging, spa treatments, lunch where women served the men. Mia noticed the 3 women from last night looked destroyed. Camila had bruises on her arms. Anya wouldn't make eye contact. The Ukrainian had a split lip. During a brief moment, Camila leaned close. Don't resist tonight. Whatever they ask, just do it. If you resist, it gets worse. What happened? What do you think? They paid $1 million. They expect a return. The contract is just paper to make it look consensual. That evening, Petra came with a red silk dress, backless, cut high on the thigh. This is what you'll wear. After dinner, you'll accompany one of the guests to private quarters. This is not optional. I didn't agree to that. The contract says you agree to fulfill companionship obligations as determined by the client. I want to leave. I breached the contract. Too late. You're past the withdrawal period. Now you either fulfill or face consequences. Be dressed by 7:45. After Petra left, Mia sat holding the dress, her mind racing. She couldn't leave, the desert would kill her. She couldn't call for help. She couldn't refuse. She couldn't comply. At 7:30, she made her decision. She wouldn't dress. She wouldn't go. She'd force them to show their hand. At 7:45, the knock came. Mia didn't answer. After a moment, she heard a key in the lock. The door opened and 2 security men entered. Behind them was Petra. Miss Lopez, you need to come now. No, Mia said. I'm not going. I refuse. The security men grabbed her arms. She tried to pull away, but their grips were iron. Let go of me, she screamed. Help! Someone help! There's no one to hear you, Petra said calmly. You're only making this worse. They dragged her out, her feet barely touching ground. But they didn't take her toward the main lodge. They took her toward a different building, smaller, windowless, concrete. They pushed her into a small room. Concrete walls, a chair bolted to the floor, a table, a drain in the center. They forced her into the chair. One man pulled out a phone and played a video. Mia signing the contract, her face clear, her signature visible. Then another video, her arriving at the resort. Then photos, her family. Her mother's house. Her father in his jeepney. Her brother at university. You understand now? The man said, you are bound by contract. You breach, we enforce. Against you. Against them. They received $85,000. That makes them complicit. If you breach, they must return it immediately with penalties. Do they have $85,000? Mia's mind spun. Her family had spent the money. What do you want? Compliance. Tonight. Then tomorrow you leave. You keep your money. Your family keeps their house. And if I refuse, then you become a liability. Liabilities are managed. We're very good at making problems disappear. Girls who drink too much, who wander into the desert, who die of exposure. Tragic accidents. The desert keeps secrets very well. They left her alone for an hour. She sat with her thoughts chasing themselves. Comply and be violated. Refuse and be killed. Escape and be hunted. Every option ended in destruction. The door opened. This time it was the client himself, the tall man with cold eyes. You have made things very difficult, he said in perfect Oxford English. This was supposed to be simple. You receive compensation. We receive companionship. But you have chosen to be difficult. I'm going to give you one final opportunity. Come to dinner. Be pleasant. Accompany me afterward. Tomorrow you leave with your compensation and your life. Or I will instruct my security team to ensure you never leave this desert. We'll stage it as an accident. Your body will be found eventually. Or perhaps not. The desert is very large. Your family will be told there was an unfortunate accident. They'll keep the money. Life will go on. Just without you. He checked his watch. You have 60 seconds to decide. Mia looked at him and saw nothing human. She thought about fighting, but she thought about her family. She stood on shaking legs. I'll come to dinner, but you need to know something. I will never stop hating you. You have my body because you bought it, because you trapped me, but you will never have my consent. And if I survive, I will find a way to tell my story. The man smiled coldly. No one will believe a poor Filipina made over men of our position. And your contract includes a confidentiality clause. If you tell anyone, we will destroy you and your family. Now come. Dinner is waiting. He turned and walked out, and Mia followed on legs that barely supported her. But as they walked past the pool, as they approached the main lodge, something in her made a different decision. I can't, she said quietly. I can't do this. I know what happens now. I know you'll kill me, but I'd rather die fighting than live knowing I let this happen. The man turned to look at her. You're choosing death? Over compliance? Over survival? I'd rather die than become someone who accepted this, Mia said. If I let you do this, I'm already dead. So yes, I'm choosing death. I'm choosing to fight. The man stared at her, then shook his head. What a waste. He turned and spoke in Arabic toward the shadows. Mia didn't wait. She ran. She kicked off her shoes and ran barefoot across sand toward darkness, toward the desert that would probably kill her, but at least it would be her choice. Behind her she heard shouting, heard footsteps giving chase. She ran past villas, past the pool, toward the service building. The floodlights erupted, blinding her. She stumbled, recovered, kept running. She saw the service entrance ahead and sprinted for it. She made it through and slammed the door. She was back in the harsh corridor. She ran, trying every door. Locked, locked, locked. Behind her the door burst open. She heard them coming. She found stairs and took them up. She burst through a door into another corridor, carpeted, lined with doors. She ran, trying doors. All locked. At the end was a window. She ran for it, pounding on the glass, screaming, hoping someone might hear. No one came. She heard them on the stairs, heard them in the corridor. She backed up until she felt the window behind her. Please, she said. Please. The men kept walking. One reached for her and she lashed out, her fingernails raking his face. He cursed and the others moved in fast, grabbing her arms, wrestling her down. She screamed and fought, but there were too many. Within seconds she was pinned face down, a knee pressed into her spine. She heard a new voice. Bring her to the maintenance stairwell. Make it look like a fall. Make it look like she was trying to escape, became disoriented. Fell. They hauled her up and dragged her through a door marked maintenance access only, into a concrete stairwell, darker and colder. The stairs went down 3 flights, metal steps with gaps, concrete walls. At the second floor landing they stopped. This is good, one said. High enough. She tried to run, got confused. Fell. Hit her head. Very tragic. No, Mia whispered. No, please. They lifted her. 2 men holding her arms, one holding her legs. No, 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 she screamed. Help. Someone help me. Please, God. They threw her. For a moment she was weightless, seeing the concrete floor rushing up. For a moment she thought about her mother's face, about her father's jeepney, about her brother at university. For a moment she thought this can't be how it ends. Then she hit the concrete floor and everything stopped. Pain exploded through her skull and immediately faded to nothing. The last thing she was aware of was the taste of blood and men's voices speaking calmly in Arabic above her, discussing how to position the body, what to tell authorities. Then darkness, complete and final and absolute. At 4:47 a.m. on April 23, 2021, hotel security cameras captured footage of a young woman in a torn dress running through corridors, trying doors, running for her life. At 4:52 a.m., the cameras showed her entering a maintenance stairwell. At 4:53 a.m., she fell. At 1:30 p.m. that afternoon, her body was discovered by a maintenance worker. The police report described a tragic accident, intoxication, confusion, a fall. The contract was presented as evidence that she'd been there legally, well compensated, that everything had been consensual. The exit clause she'd thought was legal protection had become exactly what it promised. A death sentence enforced not with lawsuits but with violence, carried out by men who knew how to make murder look like accident. Mia Lopez, 24 years old, Filipina hospitality worker, eldest daughter, sister, beloved child, became another statistic. Another girl who went to the Gulf seeking opportunity and found only darkness. The $1 million remained in her Wells Fargo account. Her family kept the house. Her brother finished university. Her mother got her medication. They grieved for her, mourned her, never knowing the truth. The 8 men who'd been at the resort went home to their families, their businesses, their positions of power. The contract was destroyed. The security footage was erased. The resort disappeared from maps. And life went on because some people matter and some people don't, and a poor Filipina maid trying to help her family will always matter less than the reputation of wealthy men with the power to make girls disappear. The exit clause was a death sentence, and Mia Lopez paid it in full.